Hello, good morning, and welcome to this Dawn Busters Taste Challenge. We have this morning at 6:26 a.m. Central Daylight Time, Albertsons whiskey, Canadian whiskey, a blend. Purple, red, gold. A royal whiskey. What other famous whiskey uses this color scheme? From Canada. Can't think of it. All right. Don't think it's the same bottle design. Canadian whiskey, a blend, product of Canada. In case you forgot, County Line Distillers, Louisville, Kentucky, 80 proof. You say County Line Distillers. I'm not familiar with them. Yeah, but you're probably familiar with Sazerac. Well, maybe you're not, but that's a big, they own a lot of brands. All right, and they produce a lot of stuff like this. Albertsons, for the Albertsons Super Value, Jewel, Osco, Vons, Amigos, going on and on and on, grocery chain. This is a private label. This is not one that I thought was a private label. It says right here, the Albertsons logo is owned by Super Value as a subsidiary under license. Okay. But then it gives you a tip off. We love to hear from our customers, and then they give you a 1-800 number and an email at bartonbrands.com. Barton Brands, yeah. Sazerac bought Barton in 2009. Now we're going up against Gibson's finest rare 12-year aged. Big glass bottle, $9.99. Okay, this was $4.99, $4.99. I bought it at Albertsons on US Highway 61 southbound in Baton Rouge. Well, East Baton Rouge Parish, not actually in the city limits of Baton Rouge, but that's kind of like consolidated as a single entity, kind of like Miami-Dade County. East Baton Rouge Parish and the city of Baton Rouge is a, you know, that kind of setup. Kind of like New Orleans. Orleans Parish in New Orleans. All right. But anyway, so I bought that in Baton Rouge. I go and get a lot of interesting things at Albertsons in Hammond, Louisiana on US 190. And in Baton Rouge, and there's a number of locations in Baton Rouge, many locations. All right, the Gibsons, I bought at Savannah Discount on Louisiana Highway 45 northbound in Marrero, Louisiana. The reason I give these locations out is some people I watch are from here, and they might be curious to go buy it. And then other people, like the Whiskey Scout, said he's coming to visit here one day. Well, he comes to Louisiana sometimes, North Louisiana, but he said if he goes to the southeastern Louisiana area, he wants to do his typical thing like I do, scout the Whiskey Scout. Get it? That's what I say I do. I'm scouting out stuff. I scout out beer, wine, and liquor. When I go to these stores, I hit the too much. I hit the dessert wine area because you never know what you're going to run across, some obscure thing. And now, since the big buyout last week with E&J Gallo basically buying out Constellation Brands, all their facilities, most of their brands, I think you're going to see a lot of changes. But anyway, if Constellation thinks they're going to get wealthy off of cannabis, that's their business. But maybe they feel like the wine and beer market's too soft or something and they want to get out. I know their president, the owner really, Richard Sands, got sick. They were saying he was ill and he's kind of old and elderly, becoming elderly, and he maybe his children, they don't want to run it. That's what happens with a lot of these family-owned craft beer companies, craft whiskey companies. it's family owned. You say, that's great, family owned. Yeah, but what if the family can't figure out what to do with it? Now, Gallo is still family owned. They got a lot of descendants. I don't know how they can work that out, but it's working. Well, we don't know if it's, apparently it's working. You look at their photo, it's like all these people. Actually, what we're looking at today is family owned. William Grant and Sons, a family owned company, owns Gibson's, which was started in the 1830s. The company, not this brand. And I found a trademark only to 2015 on Gibson's Finest Rare. 2015. Now, Gibson's whiskey, just in general, Gibson's 1837. All right. Gibson Finest 2015. Albertsons 1939. The company was founded. But the people who make it for them, Sazerac, is a family-owned company. It's owned by Mr. and Mrs. William Goldring personally. It's not a board of directors, not stockholders. It's them, the man and his wife, who own it. Do they have children? I do not know. I'm not in their business. I know they're very wealthy. They give a lot of money to Tulane University and all of that. All right, but anyway. Was it the Gibsons I poured too much of? Yeah. All right. Tastes like candy. Always say, yeah, daylight's coming. I got to go walking. Mile and a half today. I did it yesterday. Went to mass at St. John the Baptist Church. It's the new church built 99 years ago. The one from 1788 burnt down. Yeah, it was built in 1788, a wooden church, and it burnt down in 1918. Then they built this new huge church with these stained glass windows, kind of famous for its stained glass windows, back to front, top, back, everywhere. Right in the middle of the cane fields, a little town called Edgard. Plantation houses up and down the river. I was looking at all of them. Some are open to the public, some are not. They still have their sugarcane plantations, and they saw some people out in the yard talking, big old mansion. But very rural there, farming country. But I would recommend that on Louisiana Highway 18, the river, the Great, what is it called? The Great River Road National Scenic Highway. That's the U.S. government funding name. It's got the paddle wheel on the sign. You can go from the bottom to the top all the way to Minnesota on it. But so that was good. 4 o'clock mass vigil. I was getting sleepy though. I don't know. I was trying to stay awake. No, it wasn't boring. I was just sleepy. And the pacing was kind of slow, you know, like. So, all right. But that was very interesting. And I drove along the river road to Kelowna. And then I went from Kelowna to this back highway, a new road they built years ago, Feeder Road. Then I went to Boutique, Majoria's supermarket. And I said, wow, what a liquor selection they've got here for such good prices. And I bought it. You said, you didn't buy Henry McKenna. I did. It was $8.99. It's kind of a historic brand. It goes back a long time. They used to call it Henry McKenna Table Whiskey. Then, oh, they had a beer selection there, baby. Woo. That's on Highway 90, US 90. Well, anyways, that was a little adventure yesterday. Little adventure in Louisiana. I was driving on the Old Spanish Trail. That was actually a U.S. cross-country highway, the OST, the Old Spanish Trail. Was it an Old Spanish Trail? No. It was they just called it that. It was a route from the Atlantic Ocean out to the west, the desert out west. But it was called, when they first built the U.S. highway system, it was named. They didn't have numbered roads; they had names. OST, Old Spanish Trail, with a red and gold flag, you know, like the Spanish flag. They had Jefferson Highway from the top in Winnipeg, Canada, down to New Orleans. The JT, and it was blue, white, and blue. JT, Jefferson, sorry, JH, Jefferson Highway. They made a bus company out there, still in business, called Jefferson Transit, after the Jefferson Highway, JT. I think it got bought out by Greyhound, though it may not still be in business. But when I was traveling 20 years ago, JT was all around there. Okay, you say, I didn't watch this video to hear about highways and the old Spanish Trail and US Highway 90 and you buying beer and going to a mass at a church out in the country with beautiful stained glass. When I understand, I'm letting this stuff breathe, man. I'm letting it breathe. Gotta let it breathe. Okay. And I think they were growing rice. Looked like they had some rice paddies, you know, out there in Kelowna, which would fit into the Budweiser taste challenges I've been doing. Okay, one of these is golder than the, this thing. These glasses take fingerprints. It drives me crazy. All right, this one is, in my right hand is more gold. This one is more straw. Oh, it's not a big difference in appearance, so I don't think I'll have to shut my eyes. But there is a difference. It's probably the Albertsons that's more gold. It's probably colored. And then Gibson's is paler, but it's probably not colored, just turned. It's probably clear when they put it in the barrel. And after 12 years, it turned that gold straw thing. All right. The Albertsons says Canadian whiskey, a blend. It doesn't say anything about blended Canadian whiskey with natural flavors. So it may, usually Sazerac will kind of tell you if they add the flavorings. But we'll find out because I'll be able to tell. It is natural flavorings, by the way. It's not artificial. I picked up a peppery rye note. Well, it smells like corn whiskey, grain alcohol. Really? You want to know what it smells like? It smells like corn, liquor with some barley bread, barley malt, and some rye malt. That's what it smells like. It smells like it's about 90% corn, maybe 4% barley, and 5% rye. You say, well, what's the mash bill? I have no idea, and I'll never know because they don't disclose it. Okay, this is the Albertsons. I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why. Because Sazerac has that house character. John Anile calls it the almond extract. Yeah, it's kind of like that. It isn't that. It's kind of like that impression. And there's a rye burn. You get these Sazerac Canadian whiskeys or bourbon. They have a strong rye, peppery burn on the nose. Oh, this even has the Sazerac rye. Well, naturally, Sazerac rye. But they must, I wonder if they like use Sazerac rye as a base to blend in. You say, no, it's got to come from Canada. It's got to be distilled and blended and aged in Canada. It can be bottled in the US, but it's got to, those three parts have to be done in Canada. I understand that. But who's to say Sazerac's not shipping tanks of Sazerac rye up there to use as that part of that? Wouldn't be too difficult. Now, somebody was saying, well, maybe they're shipping all the components down to Kentucky and aging them there and blending them. No, it's got to be done in Canada. I was reading the regulations. All right. That was Food Quick that was saying that. All right, let's go with the taste. Once you get used to these things, you just never can get them wrong. You know, it's, well, you hope you don't get them wrong. Because this Gibson's is so telltale of itself. Like you get a lot of wood, but it's a toothpick wood. It's not a charred wood. If you're a bourbon guy and you taste this, you might just say, what in the world? It's like drinking on a toothpick. Yeah, that's it. And there's a strong peppery rye note really on the not the undertaste, the aftertaste, the top side. Because really the base flavor of this is corn liquor, corn whiskey, grain spirits. Then you get that topside taste, and I was talking about that the other day. But you get a lot of the rye and the toothpick wood in the top side. Now the Albertsons, which you may as well say the Sazerac, you know what I mean? It's got all those Sazerac, Buffalo Trace characteristics. A strong rye. And it might bother you. Like you might drink this and say, oh, ugh, I don't want to drink black pepper. What's going on with this whiskey? That's how Canadian whiskey got the nickname rye, because they tended to use a higher rye content than American whiskey. So people start calling it rye. Like them good old boys were drinking whiskey and rye. You know that 1971 song was #1 hit. The whiskey would be American whiskey, probably like Jack Daniel's Tennessee whiskey or Jim Beam bourbon, something like that. And rye would be Canadian whiskey, which would have been 1971, something like Canadian Club or Crown Royal, but probably not Crown Royal because it was expensive and people weren't going to hang out by the levee drinking Crown Royal. Probably they would drink Canadian Club or some other cheap one like Windsor Canadian or something like that, which I still need to open. All right. It's not too heavy on the flavoring though. So you might say, and it would be a good thing to say, I guess, might be accurate. You say, oh, that's just the same old stuff in different labels that Sazerac's doing. That could be the case, and could be the same case at Heaven Hill. But my problem with that allegation, I guess you call it, why did they not taste all the same? You see what I'm saying? This tastes similar in many ways to the other Sazerac flavored Canadian whiskeys, but it is not the same. It's more straight whiskey flavor with a little touch of the flavoring. But when I do the Canadian Limited, that's going to be a lot of the flavoring. And my friend David didn't like it. He said, this is like black licorice. He said, I'm glad I didn't buy that big handle bottle. I said, well, I'm glad you tried it, you know. But okay. Which one now? So I'm going to look. Gibson's. This is Gibson's. Yep, G. This is Albertsons. Yep, A. Question now, which one tastes better? It's the same price for me. Basically the same price. But for you, you're not going to get Gibson's for $9.99. That bottle's going to cost you $40 probably. That big bottle. $40. But you're getting 1,000. Not a 750, you're getting 1,750. So you could drink on that, sip on that, think on that a long time. Albertsons $4.99. I don't see it anymore. I think it was discontinued because I went to Albertsons the last couple of years and they only had like one bottle of Albertsons gin behind the customer service. It looked like nobody wants to buy it. But I don't see any of the Albertsons brands on the shelf. I think they were all replaced by something else. Like the Albertsons brandy, no longer see it. It's D.W. Anders. Tastes the same. It's like they rebranded it. You know what I'm saying? They made up some name. Oh, yeah, there was a real guy named D.W. Anders. Yeah, he was kind of involved in the liquor industry, but you never heard of him. You know what I mean? That's how these liquor companies do that. They find some obscure person and name the product after them. The Albertsons gin was replaced by, I don't know. There's some gin that they have in there. It's the same price, like it was $4.99. It's like $5.49 now. And you say, I never heard of this brand. Yeah, because it used to be Albertsons gin. It's called something like Trotting Horse gin or something. I don't know, something like that. Nick V says, morning to you, Nick V. I have to do the baseball. I have to check the box score for the Cubs and the White Sox because that's the teams I follow. Then I have to watch all the highlights in a little while. You know how long that's going to take to watch all the game recaps of 15 games? It's going to take a while. I don't like to watch ESPN's highlights. They're trash. They want to make all these little smart aleck remarks, you know, like they think they're funny. I don't know why these guys think they're funny, you know, with their glib humor, you know. Oh, no, 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 no. And it's like, oh, yeah, okay, well, don't worry about the game. You know, don't worry about the game. Worry about your little jokes. And they're old, you know, they're worn out. They're not funny. They're just they don't concentrate on sports anymore. They barely show highlights. If they do show a game highlight, it's a rush. They just say, and then like last night I was watching, and that other guy with the white hair, he thinks he's funny, you know. He's like, okay, now we pick up in the 8th inning because the first part was boring. And I said, I just turned it. I said, I'm not watching this. This is a no good network. This ain't calling their own stuff they broadcast boring, you know. I mean, I have to watch ESPN baseball broadcast, but they're not. Now those people are a little more serious, you see. They kid around at all, but they don't like ridicule their own sport that they're showing. But it's like Sports Center is really bad. Because they'll rush through the highlights and then they'll spend 20 minutes. Now we have a feature story on a social justice issue. Melania grew up in Pakistan, and she was run over by a steamroller, and then she learned how to walk again. And this is what she did. And even though she couldn't play, they let her play, and all the audience cried and clapped. And I'm like, what has this got to do? What is all this about? Enough ranting and raving about Sports Center. I shouldn't complain. I don't watch it. So, but anyway, I'm going to watch the MLB.com game recaps. Which one is better? That's the key. You say you're losing focus. You're slipping. I'm always losing focus. You don't notice that? And I'm complaining about ESPN losing focus, right? All right. So, but which one tastes better? I know what you're saying. That's a 12-year age whiskey, dummy. And you're going to have trouble figuring out what tastes better. It's just a 3-year age Canadian. Yeah, that's the indictment against the Gibsons, right? If Gibsons is aged 12 years, it should be running leaps and bounds ahead of these other brands that's going into competition. Not struggling to win, but that's been the case. Now, some of the Gibson's finest fans that are members of Alcohol Eggs, you could join that group on Facebook too. They were saying, oh, wait till you get to Gibson's. It's going to kill all the rest, you know, which I believed it. I thought, okay, I'll be curious to see how great this whiskey is. But then it hasn't been working out. If it does win, it's barely. And it hasn't really been winning. So I'm glad I only paid $9.99, I tell you. No, I don't hate it. If I hated it, I wouldn't have given it a B+ now, would I? I'd have given it a D. I thought it was bad. but I don't know. It's something about like the rye is really harsh. You know what I mean? It's like a bite. It's got a kind of a bad bite to it. I like stuff with a bite, but it's like rye in your face. And it's a little rough. You would think after 12 years in the barrel it would smooth it out, but it doesn't seem to have been the case. They must have really jacked up the rye. I'm thinking the rye must be way higher than I gave it. I was saying, what, 5%? It might be a lot higher. Well, can you imagine what the Sterling tastes like? That's the rye version. They call it Sterling. It's a high rye Gibson's. If the Gibson's is making me grit my teeth because of the rye content, imagine what the high rye version tastes like. Woo! I don't know if I want to buy that. Whoa, let's see. Albertsons is pretty high rye too. I think the Albertsons is better now because it has a little more sugary sweetness on the front taste. And it's kind of drops off kind of mellow. It kind of fades off kind of nice. Whereas the Gibson's fades off like a jackhammer. You know, it's like rye. Yeah, it happened again. A $4.99 bottle of Albertsons Canadian whiskey, a blend, beats Gibson's finest 12-year aged. Well, that's the way I see it. Now, I guess I won't be getting any free stuff from William Grant and Sons. They'll watch that and say, he ain't getting nothing. I never got anything anyway. Paul Honor did tell me they were going to send me some beer. Paul Honor. They were saying, they sent me some empty cans. They said, here's the new cans coming out, but there's no beer in them yet. It's not ready yet, but here's what the cans look like. And then they sent me a, what was that? Oh, a t-shirt, beautiful t-shirt. But I never did get the beer yet. Maybe it'll never come in. I saw some other video reviewers were already reviewing it. They got theirs. I know UPS ships it. They'll just drop it off on the porch. And if I'm not there, yeah, they'll leave a notice we were here and something. But I've had Paul Honor anyway. But I never had the canned version, you know. But I hadn't gotten it yet. Gibson's is fine, but it doesn't win. I mean, I think the Albertsons taste better. I'm sorry. I'm going to call it like I see it. I have no attachment to these companies. Maybe it's still made now. I think some viewer was saying they still have it at my Albertsons in Wyoming or something. It's here. It's on the shelf. I said, okay, well, I haven't seen it around here, and we have Albertsons. I don't know why it's not here. But it's a little nicer flavor. I mean, I'm sorry. I guess I apologize. The Albertsons is a little sweeter. It's smoother. It's more pleasant to drink. Now, wouldn't that be an important thing to think about if you're drinking whiskey, that one would be more enjoyable to drink than the other? You might say, no, drinking whiskey is not about enjoyment. It's about breaking down the components and understanding them and extrapolating all the different ways it's made. That's what it's about. You're stupid because you think it's about having a good time and enjoying it. And that's what's wrong with the world of whiskey today. They got too many people trying to enjoy it. That is the attitude of some people in the beer world, that if you enjoy it, that you're taking a totally wrong approach. They will say, you know, no, you're worried about how good it tastes. It's not the point. It's a lot deeper than that. I would think the point of beer would be that you like it and you drink it, but it could be above me. You know, like I might not be able to grasp that. I'm thinking a consumer product. If you buy it, you should enjoy it, but that could be way above my understanding of this very intricate and speculative and deep hobby. You have no certificates. Where is your certificate? How dare you come on the internet and talk about whiskey and you have no certificate? You have no training